Thomas. Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to our FCIAC Leadership Conference. This is a very important subject, and it's something that really is going to help many of our students in your schools, and that's going to be kind of your goal, is to get back and spread this out. We're very fortunate to be having Staples High School offer their facility for us to have this event here. And we'd like to start today with an introduction from Mr. Stafford Thomas, the principal here at Staples. Mr. Thomas.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Schultz and Athletic Director Mr. Lisovic for having you here. And welcome all of our captains. Now, how did I know that we have the right crew here? It took you no time to move from sitting together to your designated seats. So that's how I know we've got some leaders here. Thank you and welcome to the FCIAC Leadership Conference. FCIAC, the most prestigious conference in Connecticut. Right? Can't debate it, right? All right, so we've got a big year ahead. For one, you should all give yourselves a round of applause. All of our fall sports will be underway this fall. All right, so I know you're excited. For many of you, being captains, the ramifications from a season is much more than the enjoyment on the field. Perhaps you'll be playing in college, but the most important aspect and the most important role that you'll have this year will be that of being one of the captains. And when I was your age, typically the captain was probably the most skillful and a senior that was on the team. But now, in this day and age, as you're asked to do so much more, it's truly about being a leader. Certainly, you have elite skill in your sport, but so much of what you're going to be called upon, especially now in the pandemic, but it's been changing for the last few years, is really how to gel and lead your team. And that's a responsibility that you take seriously. I'm sure it was one of the proudest days in your high school careers when you were named captain. And that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to mean. To be a good leader is to have your teammates look at you and feel confident that you know what you're doing. To be a great leader, you're going to inspire them to have confidence in what they're doing. And that's something I know you will strive for this year. And the saying goes, sports is life. And then it's really true. Some quotes from one of the founders of Visa. You'll be certainly be inundated as you start your freshman year with credit card companies. But the 6 most important words of a leader is, I admit I made a mistake. Next is, I'm proud of you. And what is the most important word, do you think, that a leader uses? The most important singular word that a leader uses? It's 2 letters. I saw us and I heard we. That's exactly it. And the least important, it's just 1 letter. I. There's no I in team. So it really is about inspiring, your group, your team for success on and off the field. And today you'll have some tremendous presentations. You'll have Mr. Troutwine, who will be presenting on the Life Teammate program, which will be really important for you to pass along and to be leaders, not just on the field, but in your school with the Life Teammate. And then we also have Mr. Allen, who's a former Greenwich AD, who will be presenting the Encourage playbook. So there's a lot on your tables for the year. I know you're focused on getting back to the field safely, but again, keep inspiring those around you. Keep leading, as everybody, not just on the field, but those in the school, will be looking at how you carry on in your day-to-day activities in life. So I'm so happy to have all of you back here safely, and I look forward to seeing all of you at home and away games this coming fall season. So go Wreckers, go FCIAC, and I'll see you out in the field. Thank you.
I think we're ready to, we'll share it, yeah. There we go.
All right, John, you're up on the big screen, all right? I'm here.
Okay, let me give a quick introduction. This is Mr. John Troutwine, who is the founder of Will to Live. He unfortunately was going to come up here, but unfortunately his real-life job got in the way, and he is down in Atlanta, Georgia, and is going to be joining us from there. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much, guys. It is a pleasure to be able to at least join you remotely. I do apologize for not being there in person. I was fortunate enough about 1.5 years ago to spend 3 wonderful days up in the Fairfield, Connecticut area, and perhaps met many of you during that time, where we introduced the Will to Live Foundation to the community there in Connecticut. And that all started because of a couple of very, very close life teammates of mine, old teammates from my college day, asked me to come up and spread this message of love and hope and the power that we have in delivering hope to each other, delivering hope to our friends and to our teammates, and we call them our life teammates. So, from a quick introduction, I was born in Philadelphia. I was raised in the Chicago area. I came from a very athletic family. My dad played in the Phillies organization as a pitcher. I played at Northwestern University with my 2 friends, Steve and Ab, who brought me to Connecticut. And my brother also played baseball at the University of North Carolina and went on to play professional ball in the Mets organization. I spent 7 years in pro ball. The first 4 of them were in the minor leagues with the Montreal Expos. That shows you how old I am. That team doesn't even exist anymore. But I did get to spend 1 year in the major leagues with the Boston Red Sox, which was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. As I say to everyone I meet, if you Google me, you will be disappointed. I wasn't that good, but boy, did I have fun. And the reason that I had so much fun was I had so many teammates. I had so many wonderful relationships that I was able to develop throughout my life. My wife, Susie, played lacrosse and field hockey at the University of Virginia. So also a very teammate approach to life, and we have a teammate approach to our parenting. We have 4 kids, Will, Tommy, Michael, and Holland, and they heard every teammate cliche you could think of. And so what I wanted to do is quick introduce to you all the Will to Live Foundation. This is a foundation that is dedicated to raising the awareness of teen suicide and raising the awareness of mental health and the importance of mental health amongst teenagers in our communities. And we started the foundation about 11 years ago after the suicide death of our oldest child, our son Will, who was a freshman in high school at the time, back in October of 2010. So what I thought I would do right now, guys, is share with you a video, a short one. It's a couple minutes long, that just introduces the foundation and what it's all about. And then when we come back, I'll talk about the Life Teammate concept and a Life Teammate program that we're implementing there at the with the FCIAC conference. So guys, is it best that I share to do the video?
John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, what do you need us to do?
Do you want me to share the video?
Yeah, share the video.
Okay, so I'm hoping the sound works, but let me see if I can.
We're having some issues with the sound. Trying to up the volume right now.
Okay, all right. He was big, he was strong, he was healthy, he was a good student, he was successful, he was a good athlete, he was a musician, he wrote songs, he was in a band, he was an accomplished guitarist, pianist, drummer. He was a leader of his friends, he was the consultant, he was the counselor. He had an army of pals, and they loved him and he loved them, and it was so much fun to see. And we lost him, and none of us understood why. We were Team Troutwine. We had a fun house. It was full of laughter. And there's not a night that goes by where I don't lay my head on the pillow and wonder how a child of mine could take his own life living in my home, and I'll never understand it. And I'll live with that the rest of my life. Suicide was all of a sudden everywhere, and I started to see the statistics, and teenagers like Will, strong, successful kids, were losing that will to live on a rate of 1 every 2 hours in America. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to create a foundation that was going to show kids, and I was going to tell this story. The greatest friends that I ever met in my life, the ones that stood up for me in my wedding, the ones that were godparents to my kids, I met when I was Will's age. If Will just would have known that, if he would have known the power that he had in his friends. And we said this foundation is going to do just that. We're going to teach these kids to recognize that the greatest source of hope in their life is in the eyes of the buddies sitting next to him in the dugout and on the sidelines and in the classroom. They picked me up during my life's most difficult time that weekend. You guys have the power to show the good and the love that really exists in your friend's life. The grass is always greener. We hear it all the time. It's your job to show your friend how green the grass is in their lives. The good is there. The love is there. Sometimes you need a friend to show it to you. Be that friend. Okay, can you see me now?
Yes.
So how did the sound come out? Okay, could you hear it all?
Yeah, we got the volume fixed, John, and it's much better now. We can hear you much better now also.
Okay, great. So obviously that video was put together by high school students here in the Atlanta area. And they put it together as part of their marketing of the foundation. Because when Will died, it was my friends that came to my rescue. In fact, even at Will's funeral, I started seeing my high school friends, my grade school friends, my college friends. And these are these friends and teammates of mine that I went through life together. I learned about life together. And as I say on the video, these are the friends that I was in the trenches with. These are the friends that truly understood me and understood the obstacles that I faced when I faced them. Who best understands you all? Your mom? Your dad? Your coaches? Your teachers? Your ministers? No. How can they? They grew up in 1980 and 1990 and the year 2000 or 1970. They did not grow up in 2010s. They didn't have this. They didn't have the internet. How can they truly understand what you're up against? And at the funeral, I realized that my life friends I met when I was your guys' age, when I was a teenager. And they were in my wedding, and they were godfathers to my kids, and I still keep in touch with them today. And they still ask me to come visit them and make a presentation up in Connecticut. So that's what the foundation was all about. Let's create something that gets you teenagers, you kids, and young adults to recognize the true love and hope, and most importantly, understanding that exists in your friends. Nobody understands what it's like to be a high school student today than another high school student. So let's capitalize on the fact that you guys get each other. You understand each other. Nobody loves you like your mom. Nobody loves you like your dad, but nobody understands you like your teammates because they're going through the same thing. And I thought, oh, Will was struggling. He was suffering from an illness called depression that is everywhere. 1 in 6 of all of you have it. It's okay. It's treatable and beatable if we talk about it. So let's create a culture where it's okay to not be okay. Let's create a culture where we invite our friends and our teammates to share, not just the good, but also the bad. That's what being a life teammate is all about. You guys live in a very crazy world right now. It's loaded with negativity. The challenges you face are nothing like the challenges that I faced when I was your age. The opportunities that you have are fabulous. They're also nothing like the opportunities I had. So work together and create this concept of a life teammate, which creates a culture amongst your classmates, amongst your school, amongst your conference, that says it is okay to not be okay, so that we can talk about it. Because if I can get you guys to talk about it, and then I can perhaps do what we were unable to do with Will. He never told anybody he was struggling. You saw the video. He was big, he was strong, he was healthy and seemingly happy. But he had an illness that is maskable. He had an illness that has a stigma. He had an illness that he was perhaps embarrassed to talk about it or didn't know that he could talk about it. So the foundation is dedicated to creating this culture where there is no stigma, and we show understanding, and we deliver hope to each other. And so what we started to do when the foundation began is we created this concept of a life teammate. And as I got to know the kids and spend time with them, and I realized how much harder it was to be a teenager today than it was in my age. It's harder to get into college. It's harder to make a baseball team. I would not make a high school baseball team today. I pitched for the Red Sox because when I was 11, I wouldn't have made a travel team. But back in my day, they didn't have travel team. So the world was patient and I got to grow up. I didn't have to get straight A's to go to Northwestern University. That's not what they're telling you guys, is it? This is hard. This is hard. You have to do it, but it's hard. So get together and do it together. It's so much more fun. That's something that's an advantage that you all have being student athletes. You understand what it's like to truly be a teammate. So take advantage of that. Rejoice in that. I hope when they ask you when you're interviewing for college what you like best about yourself, I hope your answer is, I'm a great teammate. And I love that about me. Because I tell you what, when you're my age, it's not the scores, not the wins or losses that you're going to remember. It's going to be your teammates. And so that's what this Life Teammate Award is all about. The foundation was created for the kids and through the kids and by the kids. You saw a 5K run. You saw a concert that was all created by high school kids, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars so that we could bring counselors into schools, so we could set up programs and set up scholarships and awards. And that's what we're doing here today, the Life Teammate Award and Scholarship. And so when we did this, we said, okay, we're going to make this award that talks about what it's like to truly be a life teammate. Someone who is always thinking about his friends and his teammates on or off the field. He's respecting the game. He's respecting the difficulties that we all face. It's more than just being on the field, guys. It's a 24/7 sort of world that we live in right now. So let's help create this culture as you guys as leaders can do this. So every year here in Atlanta, the Life Teammate Awards are given out. The best example I can give is we actually have some colleges doing it. Wake Forest University has a Life Teammate Award. And what they do is they have 16 teams. And so this is a good analogy for you guys to think about, because I want you all to create it. I want you all to create how this is determined, who's going to be the winners at each school. So that at Wake Forest, there's 16 teams. There's 8 boys teams and 8 girls teams. Every team, every year, votes on a senior who is that life teammate, who best exemplifies what it's like to be a life teammate, who's committed to delivering hope to his friends. And so at the end of each year, there are 8 candidates from the men and 8 candidates from the women. And then there's a student advisory board that made up of students that determine the winner. And every year there's a male and female winner of the Life Teammate Award and Scholarship. Every year, every student athlete votes on what it's like to be a life teammate, what it's like to help create this culture where it is okay to not be okay, and that the friends of mine sitting in the dugout know that they could come to me if they were struggling, because life, like sports, is hard, especially today. And we're so proud of the way that you all navigate through these obstacles and through these difficulties. It's so impressive. As I watch and spend time with kids your age, I just marvel at how well you're doing. But I also see how hard it is and how stressful it is, especially in a time like this where you spent the last year and a half wearing a mask or being quarantined or doing everything virtually from your home. Never before has it been this difficult. But the people sitting next to you understand just how difficult it is because they're going through it as well. So every year, be thinking about, and you guys be ambassadors of this message of delivering love and hope and the will to live to your friends. And if we can do that, guys, we are going to create a better community. We are going to create a community that shows the parents how to do it. I spend a lot of time talking to parents. Well, they need to help create this world, this culture where it is okay to not be okay. That's hard for us. We don't like to see anybody not okay, especially our kids. But you know what I've learned from all of this is that it is okay to not be okay. And if I can create that culture, things just seem a little bit better because understanding is given. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Cusco, who's local there, and he is going to also talk about his own story, which is similar to mine, unfortunately, but also talk about how hope was delivered to him during a tough time by his friends and teammates. Jim, over to you, buddy.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. I'm going to go over to my computer now. Good morning. My name is Jim Cutso. I want to thank FCIAC Commissioner Dave Schultz and the Will to Live organization for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you to John Troutwine for showing me that there is life after tragedy and being a mentor to me. On February 4th, 2021, my son, Fairfield Ward Jr., Kevin Cutso, decided to take his own life due to depression. Kevin was a member of the Ward lacrosse and football teams and enjoyed the brotherhood and camaraderie that team sports gave him. My family has a long tradition with the FCIAC and Connecticut lacrosse. Some of you might know me through Fairfield Youth Lacrosse in the 9 years I served as coach, board member, and president. Kevin's grandfather, John, served as the FCIAC commissioner for 38 years. At 84 years old, he's here today. Kevin's great-grandfather, the legendary Stanford coach, Paul Cutso, helped found the FCIAC, and I see some Stanford students here, and the gym at Stanford High School is named after him. Both John and Paul are in the National High School Coaches Hall of Fame. Whenever we asked Kevin what he wanted to do in life, he said he wanted to help people. This isn't just a throwaway line. Kevin lived it. Every summer in Fairfield, the Greenfield Hill Congregational Church and the Reverend Alita Ward organized the Appalachia Service Project, or ASP, which many Fairfield High School students participate in. There was a moment on that trip that those who witnessed it will never forget. Kevin's work crew, traveling down the highway in their van, spotted a man lying by the side of the highway, bleeding, clearly in grave trouble. They pulled over, and the first person out of the van was Kevin. Todd Jones, who was Kevin's leader, said that Kevin ran over to him faster than I've seen anyone ever run before. He took off his shirt on the way to he took his shirt on the way to use as a compress. And Kevin continued to care for that man until the EMTs arrived. Many kids contacted Reverend Ward after Kevin died, and she shared what they said during her eulogy at Kevin's funeral. She said, "I've been so struck by how many of them felt cared for by Kevin. Just like that unknown guy on the side of the road, they have felt Kevin's compassion, felt tended to by him." One person wrote, "Kevin noticed I was having a bad day, and he just kept talking to me until I was smiling again. He was so thoughtful. If I had to put it in just one word," another person said, "it would be selflessness." He made sure everyone else was happy. One person said simply, Kevin was a kind soul. He made people feel better. One young person said, "Kevin's afterglow will last forever." In honor of Kevin's desire to help people, I'm here today to help implement this Life Teammates program, bring awareness to mental illness, and break the stigma that is associated with it. Since Kevin died, I have been speaking to various high school and youth lacrosse teams. And just as John said, my message is the same. Depression is here, and it's real. Depression is like any other disease. Depression is treatable and beatable. Depression is common. And just like John said, it's okay to not be okay. I want to go over that. Depression is here and real. COVID-19 has had an extraordinary impact on the pediatric mental health. The Children's Hospital Association and American Academy of Pediatrics has reported nearly a 20% increase in young people attempting suicide during the pandemic. They went as far as to label it a mental health crisis. Another study shows a 333% increase in the self-harm in the Northeast. Where's Connecticut, everyone? In the Northeast. Depression is like any other disease. Give me a show of hands right now and let me know if you know someone who has cancer. Yeah, look at that. Do you think they want to have cancer? No. Kevin didn't choose to have depression. It's treatable and beatable. Just like any other illness, there are doctors that focus on depression, Depression can be treated with therapy and medication, or a combination of both. And depression is common. 1 in 6 adults have it. Can I see a show of hands if they know anyone who has depression? But we don't talk about it. I think back to all my experiences over the past 6 months since Kevin died. I want to share this concept of find the good. And before I met John, I didn't know what a life teammate was. But one of my friends, Mark Suda, who I met in the 3rd grade, was at Kevin's wake. And he shared something with me. He said that his daughter battled depression and showed me this tattoo that they had on their arms. It says, "Find the good." This helps them get through the tough days. They say one of the hardest things in all of life is for a parent to lose their child. And speaking from experience, it's true. My wife and I take one day at a time, and we have a goal of making some type of good come out of this tragedy. So I, too, will seek to find the good. In what has been the absolute worst moment of our lives, I find the good in the community, neighbors, and friends and family who have hit rocks for us. I find that good each time that I speak to a crowd or a team, whether it be a woman I went to high school with, or a player and a parent who I've coached, or a random person in the crowd. They tell me how I've helped their family start a much-needed conversation and made them realize that they are not alone. I find the good in looking out of all of you, this country's future leaders, and knowing that you will take this message and make a difference. I find the good in seeing 2 boys that I've coached in 2nd and 3rd grade in the audience today, and they've grown into fine young men. And see Luke Caesar and Will Hartung there. I'm sorry, guys. But in that moment where Kevin decided to take his life, he couldn't find the good. He lost the will to live. So you kids are going through all the same things together, as John mentioned. Sometimes we need our friends to show us the good. I never thought I would say this, but you kids have it hard. Harder than I did when we were growing up, and harder than anyone else. As John said, you all have these things. They can be great, but they can be good. They can be bad too. There's social media where everything is a happy filter. You wake up each day with the whole world watching you. If you make a mistake, everyone will know about it. I think back in West Rocks Middle School in 6th grade, and I went to one elementary school, and there was 4 others that fed into West Rocks, and there was this girl, Tracy Olette. We went out. I asked her out. I heard she liked me, and We held hands for like one period, and then the next period she broke up with me or something. Um, but nobody else knew about it really. But you kids could wake up and have a situation like that, and she might have broken up with you, and the whole world knew about it before you did. Or if you have some friends and you're going out to a party, or you say, oh, well, yeah, I don't know, I'm not going. And then all of a sudden, someone sees a picture at that party, and, well, why didn't I get invited? Or so there's so many things that can go wrong with all the social media, and there are a lot of pressures around with it. And as John mentioned, you're all athletes here. I played lots of sports growing up, and when I founded Fairfield Youth Lacrosse, we said there'd be no lacrosse in the fall, just spring. That's when it is. Lacrosse is spring, and we wanted kids to play football, soccer, whatever. But now it's specialization, and if you don't make a travel team at a certain age, it's almost like you're not going to be able to play in high school. I got to play college. I got to play high school soccer, college lacrosse, high school lacrosse. But again, the thought of specialization adds another pressure. Pressures of getting into college. When I went to school, UConn was a safety school, and now you need like over a 4.0 to get into it. Kevin took 4 AP classes because he was on, we were like, no, it's too much, and he wanted to get into a good school. He felt he could carry the load. And last summer we visited BC and UConn, and BC is beautiful. It looks like Hogwarts, for God's sakes, and the classrooms, it's wonderful, and all the new athletic buildings and dorms and so forth. But that's unattainable for a lot of people. It's almost like an Ivy school. Add all those things up, and then you add COVID-19 related stresses. Am I going to die? Am I going to get someone else sick? Remote learning, activities canceled, masks. All these things could be overwhelming. And I say Kevin didn't die of COVID, but he died of COVID. You think about the remote learning and trying to learn honors, algebra 2, or whatever he was in, calculus, through a screen. We do that to prisoners. We put them in a room and have them not interact with anyone. They actually get time to walk out and lift weights and so forth. Our kids, all of your activities were canceled last year. The prom, sports, senior night, this, all the things that make school fun. In the days following Kevin's death, there was such an outpouring of love from the vigil to the wake. I would like to think that if Kevin knew there was so much love for him, he would have made a different choice. So that's why it's important for us to talk to each other and not text. Talk. Start talking with each other, kids. I challenge you guys to look for the love that exists every day in the eyes of friends, classmates, and teammates, and you can deliver hope to these people. If I can get you all to say I love you more frequently, maybe we can get someone to say I need help or I'm struggling. Does anyone know who Mr. Rogers is? I think he might have been before my time, but he was this man, he was a child advocate, and he had this show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and just a gentle, kind soul. I think Tom Hanks actually played him in a movie about a year or two ago. And he said that anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we could talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming and less upsetting and less scary. So I'd like to do something right now. I want you all to turn to the person next to you and say, I love you, man. Go ahead and do it, please. Awesome. Awesome. So you're meeting new people, meeting new friends. You're all from different high schools. This is awesome. This is a great opportunity to meet people. You're all going through the same things. So I want to end with this. Kevin's afterglow will last forever. The afterglow will be in every moment of kindness that someone offers to another because they remember Kevin offering it to them. It will be in every selfless act that someone does because they witnessed Kevin do it first. It will be in that moment when someone refuses to leave another until they've seen them smile because they remember Kevin's persistence with them. It will be in someone pulling over to help because they remember Kevin sprinting down the roadside to tend to a hurting man. Kevin's afterglow will be seen in each of us as we love a little harder, care a little deeper, and holds a little tighter. Kevin's afterglow will be seen when each of us is a little kinder, a little gentler, a little more caring, and more empathetic. And the afterglow of Kevin's life will be our lights shining that much brighter, and our lives shining that much brighter. I love you, man, and thank you.
Am I still on, guys?
Hello. Coach, I'm going to say a couple words. Hi, you guys. I'm Steve. I'm not feeling great, not COVID, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the Life teammates and kind of what we hope you guys do. John Troutwine is a teammate of mine at Northwestern. We've been friends since 1979. Along with Ab Igram, I raised two kids through the Fairfield Ward school system, and I saw the importance of John's message, of John's positive message of Life teammates. Am I getting Zoom bombed? And I saw how important his message was. I looked at my kids going through high school, and I said, I got to get John out here. You know, this message is too important to not have him come. And, you know, that's how he was as a teammate. He was always upbeat. And for him to put a positive spin on the worst thing that could possibly happen to any of us is amazing. And the challenge for you guys is to bring back the positive message of Life teammates and be that teammate. Be the person that your teammates want to come to when they're not okay, and let them know it's okay to not be okay. It's about the kids. It's about you guys and the message that you want to put. You know, the 5K is one way, the concert. However you guys want to get the message out to your buddies, it's up to you. We're here to support you and challenge you. You know, if you have any questions, which I hope you do, John's back to answer the questions. Step up, you know, step up, be that teammate, step up, ask questions. And it's what life's all about, is being there for each other. Okay, so.
John, are you there?
He's there.
I'm here.
Okay, there you go, good. So John,
Okay, good.
Jim spoke, I don't know if you were able to hear what he spoke.
I-
I'd like if you wouldn't mind just to go a little deeper into how each school can put together their Life Teammate Awards. Talk about the wristbands that they all got,
Yep.
they all should have on in the audience, and expand on that a little bit.
I'd be happy to. So first of all, I want to thank Jim for sharing, right? I know personally how difficult that is. I also know how important it is. And a couple quick comments I want to make sure that we make to, the student leaders there, right? Kevin and Will didn't choose to die. They died of an illness. It's called depression. It's a mental illness. It's a physical deformity. It's not a choice. It's not a character flaw. It's a physical deformity of the brain. And it's very difficult for guys like Jim or myself to come to grips with it because we're their dads or we're their friends and we should have seen something. Well, you have to treat this as a disease because that's what it is. The point I want to make here, guys, is that it is treatable, but it's such a crazy disease in that it's also maskable. So you don't necessarily know that you have it or you don't know that your friend has it. So this is why this concept of creating this culture to talk is so important. Now, as important as this, you student leaders, you are not psychiatrists, you are not doctors, you're not psychologists, you're not counselors, you're simply friends. And the vast majority of your friends do not have depression. However, all of your friends have bad days. All of your friends struggle. All of your friends have anxiety. All of your friends have stress. So just understand that. We're not asking you to be doctors. We're not asking you to stop suicides. You can't. You don't have that ability. What you have the ability to do is deliver hope. You have the ability to show your friends that, hey, I'm in the same boat you are. You have the ability to show that you understand. And by doing that, it creates this culture where you do talk. And when you do hear something that sounds a little serious, you talk about it, you escalate it, you talk to an adult, you bring them to counselors, you talk to their parents, whatever it might be. That's the culture we're trying to do. We're not trying to put that kind of pressure on you all. We want you to deliver hope. We don't want you to stop suicide. That's not your job. Your job is to create a culture of finding the good in your friends' lives when they can't see it. And every single one of your friends has those days. Sports is such a great example. You could win a baseball game 10-0, but your shortstop struck out 4 times. He had an awful day. He had a miserable day, but your team won, right? Understand that everybody has ups and downs, that everybody faces these challenges. And what the life teammate concept is to always be aware of that. Just be aware that life is hard for your friends just like it is for you, and think of that when you're communicating, when you're talking. Jim had you all say, love you, man. Those were the last words I ever said to my son. That's what's on the wristband, right? It says, love you, man, and life teammates. What does a life teammates do? He encourages the concept of love among his friends. He or she is not afraid to say, I love you, pal. He or she is not afraid to create that culture where it's easy to share your emotions and share what's bothering you, so together you can rise above it. And that's what the life teammate is all about. So when someone asks you, what's that all about? Oh, this is my life teammate band because life is hard, and sometimes you need a friend to help you get through this craziness. Nothing to do with depression, nothing to do with anxiety, nothing to do with suicide. Life is just flat out hard. So help each other make it easier by creating this culture. And it took what Jim and I have gone through with Kevin and Will. It took us to recognize the true power that our friends have to make us feel really good. And that increases our will to live. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do. My goal is not to stop suicide. My goal is to increase the will to live. Make the day a little bit better by rejoicing in companionship. The human spirit craves it. It needs it, just like teams do. Good teams win. Great teams love each other. That's what we're getting you guys to do. So here's what I want you to do. There's no rules and guidelines here. You guys all know what a life teammate is. You guys all get that. So when this meeting ends, go back to your schools, get that group, that leadership group together, talk about what you heard today. Review the document that talks about what a life teammate is, and find a way, a creative way, to spread that message through the rest of the teams in your school. I would highly recommend you get one of your coaches, perhaps the athletic director, have a faculty sponsor that helps you do this, that helps you create this Life Teammate Award and a program that says every spring or every fall, however you want to do it, every fall, all the teams vote on who they think that senior life teammate is. And it gets announced at a halftime of a football game, or it gets announced at halftime of a basketball game, or something like that. Or at a spring all sports banquet, however you guys do it. I want it to be your award. I want it to be your design. I've given you the base. We've given you the base. We've given you the reason for it and the logic behind it. But I challenge you guys to find a way to implement this message of hope amongst your friends. Right? Ask questions. Arrange a call with me if you need to. Right? We can do these kind of things as we put this together. But I would get a faculty member, or maybe a good one to go to, obviously someone from the coaching staff, maybe somebody from counseling, or from human resources, wherever it might be, that can help you employ this message of love and hope. And it's okay to not be okay, because life like football, or life like lacrosse, or life like basketball is really hard. And that's really what we're trying to get you guys to do. So I'm guessing you have some questions, right? Go ahead and ask them now. If you're afraid to ask them, which is understandable, put them down on paper. We can send that. We can set up a question and answer, even if you'd rather do it by emails and things like that. So Steve and Dave, we can set that up if they want to do that. But I don't have a full step-by-step boilerplate, because I don't want it to be my award. I want it to be yours. What does your school's Life Teammate Award look like? Put that together. By the way, put that on your resume when you're done. It's a great opportunity for you guys to truly lead in perhaps a way that you never thought you would, by helping create this culture of love and hope and the power that friends have to make our day a little bit better. So are there any questions? I can't see you guys, but you can see me, and obviously between the group that's here, we're happy to answer any questions.
If you have questions, please stand up and just feel free to ask it if you want to come up front. Like you said, it could be something you need to think about. But if you do have a question right now, maybe I can just elaborate a little bit. What we're going to do is, as the FCIAC, is we're going to create a Life Teammate Award for each school. Probably have a male and female for each school. Like John said, we're going to have you work to put it together. We have an athletic directors meeting tomorrow morning. We're going to talk about it with each school. Why are we doing the award? It's not just to recognize, because we want you. It's not to recognize you as the main reason. The main reason is to spread the word about what it is to be a life teammate. Because when you see an award up on the wall, someone's going to say, well, what does that mean? And then someone else might learn about being a life teammate, and it might help somebody else. So it's a domino effect that we're doing with this. That's why we're here for you. Our goal is for you to bring it back to your captain's meeting with your athletic directors, to have a captain's meeting this fall, and sit down and explain what it is the Life Teammate Program is with your athletic director. And then each team captain will take it to their team and talk to their team about it with their coach. And then it's just like I said, a domino effect. More and more people are going to learn that it's not okay, or it's okay to not be okay. It's okay not to be okay, which is one of the great things that they have. Because there are a lot of people that aren't okay right now in your teams, in your school. So we're going to try to help those people. So I know you might not want to, does anybody have a question, a quick question? Something? Anybody? On how, it's going to flow from here. But this is what the base is for us today. That's why we have, John speaking, and thank you getting the gym for speaking about this. John, any comments you'd like to tie it up with?
No, just again, I applaud, what you guys are doing at the FCIA. So, you kids are part of a conference and an area that is really committed to tackling this stigma, which is rare. Trust me, it's rare. I've been doing this for 11 years, right? And they understand the power that you have to deliver hope to each other and be ambassadors of this message of hope. So be proud of that. Be thankful. You kids, be thankful that you're in a situation that they're doing something like this. And your legacy will be every year at your school, the student athletes will be talking about the power they have to deliver love and hope and improve the lives of their friends and their teammates. And that's a great thing in today's world. So thank you all very, very much for being here. And like I said, I challenge you to get creative, right? Maybe find a way to introduce it to your school. Maybe it's a big in the auditorium, or maybe it's a pizza lunch. I don't know what it might be, but find a way to introduce this concept of a life teammate, because it is a very, very good one. So thank you all.
Thank you, John. So what I'd like to do now is just take a little break. You can use the bathrooms. They're all open outside out there. We're going to transition into Mr. Darwin Allen, who's going to do a piece of tying in with this subject that he has put together, and he'll explain his whole background on this. But please feel free to take a break now, stretch your legs.
Thank you for your attentiveness there, and I'm glad we had a little break. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Garland Allen, who I first met when he was coaching basketball at Greenwich High School, and I was coaching basketball at Fairfield High School. That was a while ago, Garland, huh? And then he became the athletic director there, and he's going to explain where he went from there and what his foundation program is, and then sharing with us something that ties right into what we just went over. So, Mr. Garland Allen.
Thank you, Dave. It's always a pleasure to come back to the FCIAC and have an opportunity to interact with student athletes, former colleagues, coaches, and athletic directors. To the point that Dave made, I spent many years in the FCIAC. Actually, I grew up in Greenwich, and I played sports within this league. But after leaving Greenwich after an athletic director, I went to New Jersey for a few years and was an athletic director there. And after that, I started working at NYU. I was involved with a think tank, and we were looking at different ways of impacting sports in a positive way. And that eventually led to me getting involved in a company. I was one of the founders. It's called Encourage. And our goal was to reach out to athletes, parents, coaches, society in general, to see if we could create a more positive and respectful climate in the sports experience. Over the past several years, I've been doing summer workshops, leadership workshops for the FCIAC for team captains. And typically what I would talk about is the strategies and the things that captains can do in order to be more successful in their role as a captain in their school. And in some ways, it was more technical than anything else. Because of today's topic, I'm taking a slightly different approach. And I think the idea is that in order to lead, I view leadership as a service position where you take care of other people. But if you're not whole, if you're not healthy, if you don't have a sense of who you are and what you believe in, it's very difficult to lead others and to get them to follow you. So I'm going to, kind of dwell on that, the whole idea of taking care of yourself so that you can be in a position to lead other people. I will first start off with showing you a video, because I think it's important to talk about some of the specifics of what it means to be a captain, for instance, at the high school level, because many of you are team captains. About 6 years ago, in my work at NYU, we invited the FCIAC down to NYU for a day conference. It had to do with leadership. And each school was asked to send 10 of what they considered to be their leaders. So there were about 150 kids at NYU. The whole event was filmed throughout the day. And there's excerpts from that event that are on a video that I'm going to show you now. So it will capture some of what went on that day. And for all intents and purposes, it'll talk a little bit about some of the technical things that athletes should be focused on if they're going to be in a leadership position. So I'll show you that now, and then I'll get into the whole part about basically self-care and how you can become a stronger leader by making sure that you are healthy and that you are safe and that you are in a position to be a good teammate.
Characteristics you develop going through high school as leaders will stay with you for the rest of your lives. In the title of the program, the word leadership is used rather than leader. That is important to note, because leadership is not a thing or a person. It's a process. You can't touch it, you can't hold it in your hand, or wear it on your sleeve. But it is real, and you can feel its presence when it's embodied with the right person. So I think the the best captains are the ones who make everybody around them better, not only on the field, on the ice, but off. And at the end of the day, the success really comes down to the leadership in that room, pulling everybody together.
Being a leader doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best player on the team. You have to be the guy who is going to do all of the dirty work, the guy who is going to put the team first, and not be overly concerned about what or who gets the credit.
You know, I've never ever been in any sport I've played the fastest, the strongest, not even close, not even in the top 10. But I feel like I've always been good at getting people excited about their progress and about how they're doing. That's been my gift to give to people.
One goal that you want to have every year is not only, to be the best you can be, whatever, but to get the respect of the team. Before any of this athletic stuff, I'm a person, and I want everybody to respect me as a person.
A leader is not afraid to work even when he's not working. A leader is always there, but you don't know he's there.
Being a captain, for example, doesn't make you a leader. It's a title. It's an important one, but it's a title nonetheless. Being a captain means being a leader. Being a leader means taking responsibility to get the right things done.
Every time two teams play, 50% of those teams lose, right? You can't play sports just to win. If your team is only cohesive because you're winning, that's not a good team.
Not everybody has the same combination of characteristics. You build your own portfolio. You create a mosaic that suits you, that makes your own leadership profile.
Very consistently, the attributes of leadership are based on integrity, honesty, and commitment, and really being forthright in what you do. Pat Summitt, she said, if you don't want responsibility, don't sit in a good chair. You all are leaders in this room, but no, it doesn't come without a price of commitment.
If you haven't thought about how you behave in certain situations, those moments will fleet by, you won't take those steps.
We don't often think that vulnerability is a strength. Why? Because people say things like, well, if you're vulnerable, people are going to do what? Take advantage of you, right? But it takes a lot of vulnerability to show up in this world as yourself. To show up in the world as yourself every single day takes courage. It takes strength. And vulnerability and courage are cousins.
If this idea that, oh hey, loosen up grandpa, it's all just entertainment. You want to tell me that Willie Mays, or Gail Sayers, or Sandy Koufax, or Jerry West, or Magic Johnson, or Larry Bird, or Peyton Manning now, or Derek Jeter, or Mariano Rivera, none of whom needed histrionics and mindless stupidity and exhibitionism, that they weren't entertaining? The entertainment is in the performance. The style is in the performance. Think those guys didn't have style? They had style from here to eternity and back again. Belligerence and exhibitionism is confused with style. Bombast is confused with personality. And a kind of disrespect and lack of sportsmanship is confused with competitiveness and passion. And I think we need to reestablish those distinctions.
If I'm competing with these two, will you see me as female versus male? Or do you see athlete versus athlete? That is my approach on every single thing. That's the difference.
So here's what I want from everybody here today. That one word, notice. You need to decide for yourself what language you hear on your team and what matters to you.
It's Stephen A. Smith. He's the guy that's on the show on ESPN called First Take. And he called Jonathan Martin weak. He called Jonathan Martin weak because Jonathan Martin said, hey, I'm being bullied here. I don't feel safe here. Jonathan Martin was vulnerable, and vulnerability is a strength.
important, you know, to knowing yourself and recognizing the fact, you know, how you got to where you are, and then recognizing there's a responsibility that goes with that. Recognize the fact is, by being an athlete, by being the captain of the team, is to use that as a positive.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts and your views in the team.
Ask a question and direct it to one of the panel members.
There's that old expression about hard work being talent and talent to work hard. What do you do when that happens to not necessarily pay off? How do you deal with that sort of frustration?
It's not what does 2 plus 2 make. It's why does 2 plus 2 equal 4. It's not about what you do. It's about why you do it.
We consider it an honor to be sitting here before you, sharing our lives and our thoughts with you. So I challenge each and every one of you to exhibit what you've learned here today. Be leaders, be strong, lead by example. You don't necessarily have to say it, but live your life in such a way that others around you will be influenced.
Okay, hope that resonated with you. Trying to pull out clips or snippets of what took place that day and consolidate them in like a 6 or 7 minute video is somewhat of a challenge. But I thought that there would be value in sharing that with you before I go into the next segment that I'd like to talk about. Can I have a slide, please? Resilient. It's something that we all have to deal with in our lives. Some people have a little bit more than others, but it's critically important. Can I have a slide, please? It's become even more important, and I guess within the last 2 years because of COVID. Many, many disappointments that people have experienced for a variety of reasons. Changes in our culture, and it hasn't been easy. And because of today's topic, I think it's pretty relevant to what, at least I'm going to try to make what I'm talking about relevant to the topic, and at the same time, talk about some specific things that you can do for yourself to help you become a stronger and a more effective leader. Prior to the COVID crisis, I think it's appropriate to call it a crisis, there was the Pew Center did a study, and it was in response to administrators at the high school level and in college that were reporting that many of their students were underachieving, not because of a lack of effort or a lack of ability, but they were overwhelmed by the pressures of family, sports, life in general. And this was borne out in this study when they surveyed kids. So this is before COVID. And I think earlier you heard that the level of stress, the level of anxiety has increased since COVID. This study was done just before the virus broke. Give us a slide, please. Anxiety and depression. Slide, yeah. As I said, the perspective is not just limited to those school administrators. Approximately 70% of the students that were surveyed between the ages of 13 and 14, I'm going to take this off so I can turn around. As you can see up there, approximately 70% of the students that were surveyed said that they recognized that they had classmates that were exhibiting signs of anxiety and depression. It was actually a great study because if you asked an individual, do you feel depressed, do you feel anxiety during the course of the day, many people will not respond because they don't want that attention directed to themselves. So they asked them how they observed it in their classmates. 70% view their classmates as exhibiting signs of anxiety and depression. That crossed over gender, economics. It was right across the board. Over 88% of the students said that they personally feel pressure, actually, to get good grades. And about 75% that said that during the course of the school day, that they feel some level of anxiety and they feel tense and nervous. That's in school. That's supposed to be a place where generally you feel pretty good about things. Now, navigating through COVID has really exacerbated all of that. If they were to do that study now, I'm sure those numbers would go up. Next slide, please. Now, this is the part where I've changed up a little bit. Rather than talking about Katniss's challenges. This past winter, the Encourage group that I was involved with, we were contacted by a school north of Chicago, approximately 4,000 students. And they wanted us to address their student body, primarily athletes, about some of these types of challenges, how to work around them. So what I did is I pulled some of the slides from that presentation, and I'm going to use them here. In some ways, I think that they will fit in very well, and they make a whole lot of sense as I go through this. So if you feel like there are too many pressures and demands on you, you're losing sleep, you're worrying about tests and schoolwork, getting into the college of your choice, or your schedule is just too busy, the first thing you can do is to relax. Everyone feels some level of stress at times. If you can't remove the underlying cause of stress, the key to avoiding getting stressed out is to find ways to reduce and relieve the symptoms of negative stress often causes, like anxiety and depression. Next slide. For example, learning to focus your attention on something other than what's causing your anxiety. Try listening to music, exercising, talking to a friend, drawing, writing, spending time with a pet, literally anything that makes you feel comfortable and relaxed and distracts you from what you're feeling. Now, the next video that I'm going to show you is from one of my colleagues, it's Dr. Mary Ann Engel. And this video is something that we did with the group we were working with, is to give them some strategies to deal with anxiety and stress that they're experiencing. If those numbers from the Pew study are accurate, and I believe that they are, and if anything, they are probably underestimating the level of anxiety in schools. The kids at this school said, well, give us something to do. We know we're stressed out, but what can we do about it? Or we have friends that are stressed out. What can we do about it? Just talking about it doesn't make us feel better. So we tried to provide them with some resources and some ideas, some things that they could do in order to alleviate the level of stress. Slide. You have to hit it again, I think. Okay, rather, it's frozen, and I'm not going to take time trying to, we'll we'll hold it right. We'll go back to that slide, the first one. All right. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the sports breath. And what she's talking about is that if you breathe in, all right, slowly through your nose, 3 to 5 second count, all right, and you hold it for a second, and then you breathe out slowly through your mouth, it has a way of reducing actually your heart rate. It will help to relax you. If you've ever watched like a tennis match at professional level, you will sometimes see an athlete that has maybe botched a serve. They will turn their back and you'll see them on the baseline and they'll be there like you're saying, what are they doing? They're actually, many of them are taking a sports breath. It is a great way of relaxing. You can do it while you're sitting on the bench. You can do it after you've missed a free throw. You can do it after you've had a bad pass. It's a way of buying time so that you can refocus on what's really important and necessary at that moment in time. The one thing that I would suggest on the sports breath is that when you're breathing in, some people breathe in aggressively. They go like that and they tighten up their shoulders and their facial muscles. All right, now you're athletes. If you are shooting a free throw or you are up at bat or you are doing a tennis serve, all right, if you're using your arms, don't do that. Actually, we call it a tummy breath. When you're breathing through your nose, your stomach should go out a little bit. So there's actually 2 ways of doing it. When your stomach goes out, it has a tendency to relax the shoulders. So that's just a simple little technique that you can do at any time. You can actually share it with your teammates. Okay, next slide. Now, one of the things that many people, I think, lose sight of is that one of the most impactful things that you can do as an athlete, as an individual, to relieve stress in your life is to focus on paying attention to others, which is really in line with what we're talking about today. Unfortunately, most of us don't do that because we only think with our heads and not with our hearts. You know, everyone is different, so each of us can choose what that looks like. In this particular case, this is an example of sportsmanship. Simply going up to someone at the end of a game, they've lost, they're down, and you go up and you console them by simply shaking their hands, telling them that they did a great job. Next slide. For some others, community service is something that you can do. Many schools require some type of community service component. As a team captain and as a leader, you can have your team get involved in something like that. And you never know. There may be someone on your team that may be struggling with anxiety and depression. By getting actively involved in other people's lives, it may reduce that level of anxiety. Next slide. Helping an injured opponent off the field. When I was a kid playing football, if an opponent got knocked down in the game and you put your hand out to help them up, you got yelled at. That was the culture that I grew up in. You don't help up your opponent. I think it's a huge mistake. But for some people, that may be their way. It may be a simple act of extending a hand to someone that needs it. And then this next slide, which I think is really, really powerful, is just this unbelievable act of empathy. Here's a runner, no hands, marathon runner, cannot pick up a bottle of water to drink, obviously. And then there's this other runner for no reason at all, other than she had some empathy for what she saw, and she picked up a bottle of water so that this guy could drink while he was running the marathon. So why does that work, helping out other people? Well, the way that our brains work is that when you're under stress or you have anxiety, there's a mechanism in our brain that recognizes that you are under stress and you're under and that you have, and it turns into anxiety and even depression. You can turn that mechanism off if you remove whatever's causing that anxiety and stress or minimize it. So when you focus in on others, you start to direct your attention away from what's ever causing that anxiety in you, which in theory can reduce the anxiety. Next slide. And this graphic kind of shows that, just extending a helping hand. And the reason we chose this slide, say there was something horrible going on in your life, you really were stressed out, but you find yourself on a cliff, and there's someone who maybe is about to fall, and you were to reach out to help them up, would you really be thinking about your problems and your stress? I think all your attention would be on helping that individual. And that's kind of the crux of what we're talking about, is finding something other than your stress to focus on. And the easiest thing is to actually focus on other people, which is really in line with what we're talking about today. This is not just helping someone on your team or someone in your school. You actually could be helping yourself. Next slide. Now, the really good news is that as leaders, you're often respected and admired in your schools. As a group, maybe more so than any other group in your school, you are so well positioned to impact the lives of others, to create a positive environment in your building and in your school. And I think that sometimes young people and even adults, we don't recognize how many people are looking at our behavior and the things that we do. And it's not just, people have confused that with on the internet, how many likes do I get? That doesn't really tell people about who you are. It's only when you're face to face with people that they really get a glimpse of who you are, what you're made of, all right? It's hard to show empathy, okay, on a post. But you can show empathy to somebody when you're face to face with them, when you're interacting with them. So use your positions of leadership, whether you're a captain or whether you're a president, or you're an officer in your club, or in your local community groups. Make sure that you understand the power of your actions and how they can impact other people. Now, some of you may have seen this video. I used to show it to captains a number of years ago. The whole purpose of this is that many people say, well, what do I do? It's hard. I don't, tell me what I have to do. I want to be impactful. Actually, it's simple. You find out what works best for you. In the first video that I showed, the guy that had the 1920 on his sweatshirt, his name is Wade Davis. Wade's a former professional football player, he's defensive back. Played for Washington. I think he played for a couple of other teams. When he was, I think, a junior in high school, he realized he was gay. And he said it was a shock to his system. He didn't know how to handle it. And the way that he decided to handle it in high school, he said that he was a bully and he mistreated everyone in his school that appeared to be gay because he was trying to direct attention away from himself. All right? So he took something and took it a negative thing. All right? And he turned all that around now. He's actually a consultant for the NFL. He talks about what it means to be gay in that environment, some of the things that he had to go through, which I think has helped the league in general. But the point that I'm trying to make is he said this line, and it's always resonated with me. It takes courage to get up every morning and just be yourself. It actually does, particularly more so now than ever because of social media. The challenge for you is to figure out who you are. You cannot lead if you don't know who you are and what you believe in. It's impossible. You'll be all over the place. You'll be like a feather in the wind. Have the courage to know who you are and be willing to live a life that supports who you are. If you don't like who you are, then you change that. But make sure that when you get up in the morning, that you're that person that's in the mirror, not the person that's on the social media, not the person that other people think you are. Be who you are. And that's so many times we get into trouble because we don't understand that simple act. It's a powerful act, and it's actually what gets people to follow you when you are who you are. All of you are here because a coach, an athletic director, maybe a school administrator or your teammates recognized something in you that said you should be a captain or that you're a leader. I mean, you didn't call someone up and say, hey, I want to go to the meeting because I want to be a leader. Someone recognized something in you. If you don't know what that is, and try to figure it out and try to nurture it and protect it. Don't lose sight of that. So the next video that I'm going to show is something called a sincere compliment. Some of you have seen it in the past. I've showed it to FCIAC. And what I like about it is that it shows the power of one individual who decided to think with his heart and not just his head in order to help other people in his school. And it was a powerful act. And it really resonated. And he you know, simple guy. There was nothing that was unique or special about him, but he did an extraordinary act.
Jeremiah is intelligent, influential, funny, easy to talk to, kind. Jeremiah is always there for me. Smart guy, knows where he's going in life. Great friend.
Jeremiah is an inspiration to Westside. Jeremiah is a person who's extremely caring and kind, and he's made a huge difference in our community and our school.
My name is Jeremiah Anthony. I'm a junior in high school. Westside Brothers is a Twitter account that I started up in October of 2011, and we just send compliments to people who we think are feeling bad a certain day or have done something really good, like winning a state title. And I built this up by first complimenting people I knew, my friends, and then they started telling their friends, and those people started telling their friends, and then soon it became a pretty popular following. I believe that showing the goodness in people is very integral to our account, because so many people on Twitter and Facebook, they get cyberbullied because they're less than perfect. And no one is perfect. So we try to have as sincere compliments as possible. I think everyone likes a sincere compliment. This combats cyberbullying because cyberbullies, they try to focus on what's bad about a person. They try to say, hey, you're really bad at this or that. And I try to say, no, you're actually really good at this. And you're much more good at this than you're bad at that. Westside Bros is a very influential group.
They don't just go for the popular kids, they go for everyone in our school.
They are doing an absolutely wonderful job.
Westside Rose has had a huge impact on so many kids' lives at our school.
Westside Bros is very inspirational to the student population at Westside.
An example to all students at Westside and beyond that, to just be an encouragement.
I think they take people and they boost their confidence up. They surely have done it to me.
Now, in many ways, what he did is very similar to what you're being asked to do in your schools. You're being asked to be a kind of a catalyst to get other people involved in a specific way to deal with a specific challenge. And I hope that that serves as a kind of a beacon to how impactful a simple act can be if you're simply willing to kind of step out of your comfort zone. Next slide. There's going to be two under that. I just hit it twice. I'll put them all up at once. Taking care of yourself and being resilient, all right, it never ends. It never ends. Whether you're 16 or whether you're 60. And that's why the line up there is no finish line. It's a commitment, a lifelong commitment. But I think the most important thing about being resilient is that no matter how hard you work, no matter what effort you put forth, there will be times when things won't go right. No matter how tough you think you are, and you will need help, and you will need support. And it's extremely important that you recognize when those times occur. That's why I go back to that whole idea of know who you are. If you feel you aren't functioning right, if you're not getting sleep, if you're having trouble eating, if there are things going on in your world that you cannot control, yourself, then that's the time to ask for help. Now, one of the things the kids have said to me is that it's really hard to talk to your parents about certain things. And even though it may be easier to talk to other kids sometimes you have to talk to your parents. So what I have suggested, and I think it works, is that if there's something going on in your life that your parents should be aware of, and I know, and it's awkward saying something to them, write it down. Write them a letter. And in that letter, you explain what it is that you need from them or what you're going through. You don't have to send it to them. You write it down, put it in a drawer someplace if you're not ready. At some point, you may be able to pull that letter out and share it with your mom or dad or your parent or your guardian. And that goes across the board, not just for anxiety and stress, but give you an example. I had one student who told me that in his household, nothing less than an A was acceptable. If he came home with a B, or any of his brothers or sisters came home with a B, their dad went nuts. All right? There was this distorted perception that anything less than perfection was somehow a failure. All the kids in the household were stressed out, but they couldn't talk to their parents about it. So this kid wrote a letter to his mom and dad and said, "This is how I feel when you put those kinds of pressures on us." And he eventually gave it to his mom, and when she was reading it, he said she broke down in tears because she didn't realize the kind of stress that she was putting on her own kids. And that's just one small example, but that's something that can work. One other thing that I would suggest that you can do is that every night, doesn't have to be every night, but try to do this for like a week or so. Take out a notepad, write down the things that you feel good about yourself. What's special about you? It becomes your confidence resume. It sounds like, what is that? Believe me. There are people that have done that, athletes that have done that, and they put that in their locker room, in their locker. You know, they put down all the reasons why they're going to be successful as an athlete. I mean, there's different ways of doing it. So every game, every practice, when they open up the locker door, they look at it, they see that list of the things that they think make them special and important. You can do that for things that are in your lives as well. You create your resume, and believe me, you'll pull it out next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you do it the right way, because it will help to define who you really are and how you should feel about yourself, not based on the number of likes you get, not based on who you're dating, not based on the clothes you wear or how big your house is. It'll be a description of who you really are, the essence of who you are as a person. And that's more important than anything else. So I just would like to end with good luck. There'll be some more challenges this school year, it appears, with the Delta variant, but hopefully we're in a better position to deal with it. And I hope that I was able to share some information with you that can complement, I think, the theme of today's talks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Allen, and really appreciate your insight on that. It certainly tied right into what we spoke about earlier. At this time, too, I'd like to recognize and thank you, Damian Andrews from the Darien Athletic Foundation, who is here and is videoing this whole thing for us so that we will have a copy of it. When you get to working with your captains in your school, with your athletic directors and administration about this subject and about this topic, you'll be able to use this video. You can do excerpts of it, or you can do the whole thing, whatever it might be to be helpful, because there was a lot of powerful stuff here that it might be hard to remember all the things that were said, but certainly we'll have it there. So thank you very much, Damian, and the members of the Darien Athletic Foundation who showed up here early this morning to get it all set for us. Once again, to Mr. Marty Lisovic and Mr. Thomas from Staples High School for the use of your facility. We really appreciate it. To Jim Cutso, thank you very much for coming and speaking with us. It was very impactful for our young adults here. And Steve, thank you for being here. And certainly, you know, we don't see him, Mr. John Troutwine, for what he did. You've got a little task in front of you, but as John spoke, you know, you're not here to try to stop suicide. You're here to try to create positiveness, to show people that you're caring about each other with your fellow teammates and your fellow schoolmates in your school. And that's what we're going to build on. You know, we're going to talk about it with our ADs tomorrow, and we'll be getting back into our schools, you know, shortly and building forward from that. Does anybody have any closing questions or anything you might want to add or throw in here for us? Well, once again, thank you. As you leave, Mr. Mataferri should have your sandwiches. There's 3 different kinds, I believe, to choose from, and a water to take with you. Feel free to take that outside, and if you'd like to just eat outside in the fresh air, please do that. Just be respectful to Staples and make sure you throw your garbage away. There are some garbage containers right outside the front building. So on behalf of the FCIAC, thank you for spending one of your last few days of summer with us to learn this and to help others. Nice round of applause for you here. Thank you all for coming. Great, thank you. Go ahead, you can exit now and share your lunch, and good luck to you this year.